Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dennae Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur.
Thanks for joining us on the Tough Decisions podcast today. Today we're talking to Sharon DeLay. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Well, Sharon, I wanted you to get us started and talk to us a little bit about your background as an entrepreneur and where your current focus is right now.
Oh, sure. So people ask me frequently when I started my first business, and I have to honestly say it's probably when I was 13, kind of doing the babysitting dog walking gig at that time in my life. But I really liked the independence that it gave me, obviously the money that it gave me. So I have never not thought about being an entrepreneur. And over the course of my life, I've had various other small businesses, many of them lifestyle oriented. And it was probably not until I started my current business that I really looked at building something and employing other people and maybe having something in the future that will be of interest to somebody else to buy, or maybe even a family member to come in and take over at some point. So currently what I'm doing is I have an HR consulting company, and we work exclusively with smaller businesses, helping them do outsourced HR.
That's pretty cool. So can you talk to us along this journey? Obviously, since you've been doing some form of entrepreneurship since 13, I'm sure you've faced many tough decisions along your way. And I'd like you to get us started by talking about a tough decision that I call a sore thumb tough decision, where it was a tough decision that you had to make, but it had a not so good outcome, but you learned a lot of lessons through it. So can you share one of those tough decisions with us?
I think over the course of working with different businesses, I've made some decisions that haven't been so great about the types of clients that we work with. And I'm going to speak to this more in broad terms, and because I think this will resonate as well with a lot of your listeners. Sometimes we take a gig because it's low-hanging fruit and maybe we need the money and we don't think through that it's the right client, or our gut tells us it's not the right client. And I've done that more than once. I've done that probably more than a handful of times. And I've regretted it every time because that client has become, like my gut has warned me, they have become not a good client, a client that constantly focuses on the wrong things. Maybe it's they're constantly focusing on every dollar and cent versus the outcome of the strategy we put in place. So I've done that more than a handful of times, and it's a learning situation every time as I go through and ask myself why I made the decision to work with somebody who my gut tells me not to, who my client profile tells me not to work with. And I go through this process, and invariably some of it is in my DNA where I look at a challenge and think I can fix it. There are just some challenges that can't be fixed.
Sharon, talk a little bit about, maybe you have some tips or some advice for some entrepreneurs who maybe are facing the same issue, but maybe not quite as far down the journey as you are. How do you change your mental framework, or how do you change the way you look at things to try to avoid that?
So I'm a big believer that your gut will never, ever, ever lead you astray if you truly listen to it. So I think one of the things I've had to do is really start understanding those feelings I get and understanding what's the difference between nervousness because maybe I'm taking on something new that I have to learn and stretch into versus something that's truly a trigger or a warning sign that it's just not going to be a good fit. I've had to learn to overcome the fear of letting money walk out the door and understanding that when you let some things go, it opens you up to other things. And I've also had to understand that I have a lot more control over that than I think, because if I follow my plans for business development, if I follow my plans for doing the right things with the other clients that I have in place, that one client that I've lost will be made up somewhere. It will be made up through another client coming in or an existing client needing more work. And I have the availability and the capacity, and my team has the availability and the capacity. And more importantly, I think the emotional bandwidth to work with those other needs. A bad client can drain you, not only physically and potentially financially, but mentally and emotionally. And I've had to learn it's just not worth a couple of dollars.
Well, I think as, like you mentioned earlier, as, entrepreneurs, we sometimes, especially in times of need, we'll go for that low hanging fruit. And it's just, understanding and learning to just kind of stay where your focus is. And so let's shift a little bit here and talk about a tough decision that you've had to make as an entrepreneur that had a really good and positive outcome and some of the lessons you learned through that one.
So this one's a little funny, and I'm sure you have heard this so many times in talking to everybody that you've talked to over the course of your podcast and just in your business alone. And I have preached this to so many people, either through working with them directly as a consultant or in my give back work through accelerator work and working with women business owners and nonprofits. And that is raise your prices, charge what you are worth. And I struggled with this for probably 2 or 3 years. I knew I needed to do it, and I struggled with it because my whole business concept and my whole business model is working with small businesses. And my thought process kept going back to they're small businesses, they can't afford it. But at the end of the day, I did finally do it, and I did it for an unexpected reason, I think. And that unexpected reason was I did it so I could ensure that I was giving the best working environment to my employees, so I could give them additional maybe benefits or give them a comfortable office to work in a place that they wanted to be. And I raised those prices and changed a little bit of my business model at the end of 2017, trying to get my years right, at the end of 2017. And 2018 was so far is tracking to be 46% net growth for me. So it was the right decision ultimately. It has helped us talk to clients in a different way. And it has helped those clients that were draining us make the decision to voluntarily not work with us due to the price increase. So therefore, we're not wasting our mental, emotional, and physical energy on those clients that were the ones that would take a lot of time, and they were paying the same price as the ones who really needed our services and were willing to pay that price.
So Sharon, I'm just a little curious as far as any feedback that you might have gotten from your employees. Have you gotten any feedback from them as far as the change or improvements that they may have seen?
When we were talking about raising the prices, because I believe in involving my team in a lot of our big decisions that we make as a company, when we were talking about raising the prices, they did not have anything negative to say about it. And as a matter of fact, I would say here's how I got positive feedback from them. They didn't resist the price increase. They now more confidently talk about how we're doing business with clients. I have no turnover in my organization. So they are a loyal team. They stay with me, and we work very hard to meet our goals. And most recently, we were talking about what 2019 looks like for us. And they are actually coming to me now with different ways that we can reach out to clients and add value. So I think the feedback is I'm developing a loyal, engaged team who is committed to helping continue to make the business grow and be successful and profitable.
That's really exciting. And I think what you touched on there as far as getting over that turnover hump is really important, because once you get a really qualified, loyal team, then you can throw your energy into improving and growing the business and not worrying about having to hire people, right. Which I think some people underestimate how much time and energy is put into that.
And I would say from an HR perspective, it makes perfect sense to develop a team. That's what we try to get our clients to do. When we work with really small businesses, though, their knee-jerk reaction is they don't have time to invest in their team because they've got to keep the business coming in the door. I get that. I understand where they kind of get that thought process. But I truly believe if I have a good team and I take care of my team, we will collectively take care of our clients. So it kind of raises the entire ship up, in my opinion.
I totally agree. I wonder if you could share some strategies that you like to use when you are facing a difficult decision.
I spend a lot of time kind of introspectively working through things. I tend to be a very independent, introverted type of individual. It's not extremely comfortable for me to go out and talk to a lot of people and work with that advisory board. I think it's great for people who do, and I think there are multiple ways that business owners can get really good feedback, whether it's an advisory board or a mentor. I tend to do a lot of introspection first. I am extremely good at finding the possible bad and good about every decision. And I think part of that is because that's my obligation to help my clients when they're making decisions. So I do a lot of that initially, and then I'll talk to some trusted people, and it might be an attorney that I work with frequently. She's not my attorney, but we work together on a lot of employment law, and she's a very practical individual. I'll talk to one of my key employees who has a good head on her shoulders and, is pretty practical and thoughtful when she thinks. And I have a couple of other people who I would say are mentors/advisors that I will go to for different reasons or for different issues and talk to them. But that tends to be how I do it. And I know there are other ways that are really helpful for other people to work through problems. That's just the way I choose to based on my personality and my nature.
All right, we are going to take a quick break and hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Sharon about some of her favorites as it relates to her life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
All right, we are back with Sharon DeLay. And Sharon, we're going to start with this section on a series of quick questions and answers that we like to call the trifecta. And I want you to get us started by telling us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
Probably about 5 months ago, I would have said Dropbox was my favorite technology because it's cloud-based storage that I could access from anywhere. But 2 years ago, we started paying for Microsoft Office 365, which is trying to be everything to everyone. And we switched over to their online storage. It doesn't matter whether it's Google Docs, Dropbox, Microsoft Office's storage, have online storage that's cloud-based. So you have what you need wherever you go, whether you're meeting a client at their location, in your office, you decide to work from home one day because it's raining and sleeting outside like it is here today. I think using technology to the max is the ideal way to go. So Dropbox cloud-based storage for me has actually been my savior.
What's a favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
One of my favorite quotes, because I'm all about the girl power, is she believed she could, so she did. I don't know who said that, but I love that quote. And it just keeps reminding me that as long as I believe in myself, I will get it done.
And what's a favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
The book called Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's a business parable, but it's what helped me really come to understand the power of taking care of your team first.
Very good. That's one that we haven't heard recommended, so that's good. We like to get a lot of different input there. What is the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
I am looking at how I can expand my company and meet the needs of clients. And I've got 2 people that I do a lot of engaging and interacting with that have business models that I really, really like and that intrigue me. So I am working on trying to figure out how to take that business model and fit it into my organization for growth.
And how can the listeners reach out to you if they want to find out more about you or perhaps the business that you have and the services that you offer?
Great. So they can reach me by going to www.go-hr.biz. So that's go-hr.biz. And my phone number is 614-473-0122. And then we have presence on social media. So we keep an eye on all of that.
Very good. Well, Sharon, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with us and give your input and help some other entrepreneurs. So we wish you the best, and we look forward to following you and perhaps having you on another podcast in the future.
Thank you so much, Dan and Dennae. I've appreciated it being here.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.